Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary peoples. This is Bronson's By Any Means Necessary Fantasy Football Talk for Tuesday, August 30th, I believe, right? This 30th. This will be the wide receiver preview edition. With the quarterbacks, tight ends, defenses, I kind of only went 10 deep, but in the wide receivers, we're going to go a lot deeper. We're going to go top 30 because most leagues you start 2 or wide receivers flex, or in some leagues, like Yahoo leagues, for example, you start 3 wide receivers. So we're going to go deep diving through the top 30. We got all the guys that are going to be potential weekly starters coming into the season anyways. All the guys I think are going to be moving down, moving up, spikes and yikes, preseason spikes and yikes. We're going to go by the rankings as of, I think I took a screenshot like a week ago. So things have changed a little bit. I've tried to update it as best I can remember from all the drafts that I've been in, how much they've changed. But some may not be exactly accurate, but they're close. They're within 1 or 2 spots of each other. So it's not that big. It's not gonna make or break your season or anything. We're also gonna talk about some rookies to watch, or just the rookies in general, because there's a lot of wide receivers to consider out there who could be very impactful this season. And then also going to talk about some guys outside the top 30 who could play their way into the top 30, or just guys that I just generally like. I don't think I'm gonna have time to really talk about what's going on in my life. I kind of did that yesterday with my baseball video, and I'm not really going to talk about the wide receivers outside the top 30 because I don't like, because it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because those are just going to be bench plays, depth pieces anyways. So if they don't pan out, oh well. But let's start at the top with the 1 through 5, the wide receiver ones. Number 1 is Cooper Kupp. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson. Number 3, Jamar Chase. Number 4 is Davante Adams. Number 5 is Debo. So I got a few of these guys who I think are going to not necessarily move out of the wide receiver 1 category altogether, but maybe out of the top 5. Cooper Kupp at the top of the list is one of them. He had an historic season last year. As good as I think he is, as good as the chemistry is between him and Matthew Stafford, I cannot see him ever topping that. There may not be. I mean, that was a top 5, possibly top 3 all-time wide receiver season. So I mean, the odds are just stacked against him. Anyways, but I just don't. The Rams' passing game was just so heavily reliant on Cooper Kupp last year, especially early on. The Rams have kind of potentially upgraded with some guys that we will talk about down here. Or maybe not necessarily upgraded, but internally upgraded with guys getting more experience, or some free agent acquisitions. They may bring back Odell Beckham. He's currently still unsigned, which is kind of a problem this early before the season. I did actually draft Odell Beckham in one league as a depth piece. So Odell Beckham Jr. was recovering. I think he had an injury early on. No, he was in Cleveland. He was in Cleveland, right? He wasn't even with the Rams all year. Yeah, and then Robert Woods got hurt early, so it was pretty much the Cooper Kupp show. It's not going to be so much the Cooper Kupp show this year. I still think Cooper Kupp's talented, probably top 5, but I don't know. And number 1 fantasy wide receiver, probably not happening. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, right where they should be. They probably could even be moved up into 1 or 2 spots. Davante Adams no longer has Aaron Rodgers thrown to him, which is a huge downgrade for me. I believe that Davante Adams is talented, but he's not that talented. So the downgrade from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr is going to knock him out of the top 5, in my opinion. And Deebo Samuel is all going to depend on if he's going to get the same kind of usage that he did out of the backfield last year for San Francisco, which I'm kind of doubting. So if Deebo is not getting that kind of usage, where he's running the ball and catching passes, he's not going to be a top 5 wide receiver. I'm still drafting him because I believe in the talent, but I have my expectations a little lowered. Next tier of wide receiver 1, 6 through 10, Stephon Diggs. It didn't feel like he had a number 1 wide receiver one season last year. Felt like a massive down year, but he was still top 10 in almost every category. So even in a down year, he's a wide receiver one. I don't see that changing. CD Lamb at 7. Now he's the one I have a huge problem with because we haven't seen any kind of production like that from CD Lamb yet. I understand that Amari Cooper's gone, Michael Gallup's hurt. I understand he's going to see a massive target share, most likely early on or all season. But again, it's hard to trust CD Lamb as a wide receiver one heading into the season when we haven't seen him put up even wide receiver 2 numbers yet. 8, we got Tyreek Hill. I think he's trending down a little bit because of the quarterback change and the fact that I'm really personally really high on Jalen Waddle. And I think the Tua and Jalen Waddle chemistry is really strong. And I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to instantly come out there and be the Tyreek Hill we saw in Kansas City. But he's still a wide receiver 1 for me. He's still been drafted in a couple places because he's been falling into the 3rd round. Keenan Allen at 9. Very safe pick. The volume is going to be there, barring injury. And then 10, we got Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a super talented wide receiver. And with Chris Godwin potentially missing the beginning of the year, Mike Evans could see a huge target share, huge volume. He's always a threat in the red zone. I don't know what else to say. Mike Evans is kind of boring because he's always right there. But he leaves. There's so much potential for Mike Evans to be like have a Cooper Cup year, but it's just not going to happen for him as long as Tom Brady and those other weapons are in Tampa Bay. But Mike Evans is still going to be a wide receiver 1 most likely. Now for the wide receiver 2 tier, 11 through 15, T. Higgins. I think 11's a little high for me. Because I think Jamar Chase is only going to get better, and the chemistry with Joe Burrow is only going to grow. He's only going to see more volume. And with Tyler Boyd still being there, like there's just not enough. Bengals aren't going to throw the ball enough to keep all 3 wide receivers happy. So T. Higgins is a very risky wide receiver 2 for me. I got him a little lower. DJ Moore at 12. I mean, I think Baker is very capable of getting the ball to DJ Moore and keeping him in that wide receiver 2 tier. A.J. Brown with the Eagles, I got him a little higher than 13. I'm liking A.J. Brown a lot with Jalen Hurts. Michael Pittman at 14, I'm fine with that. And Terry McLaurin at 15, he's finally got, some may disagree, Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. He's definitely the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin has ever had. And Terry McLaurin has put up wide receiver 2 numbers with terrible quarterbacks. Now he's got an actual NFL, level quarterback throwing him the ball. So Terry McLaurin could potentially produce his way into the wide receiver 1 tier going into next season. Man, my nose itches. I'm sorry for that on the video. Next, 16 through 20. Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh. I'm fine with him right there. Jalen Waddle is 17. I got him a little higher just because he had an outstanding rookie year. And having Tyreek Hill to divert attention from him is only going to help him. And that chemistry with Tua is really strong. Jalen Waddle's the top 15 wide receiver for me. Brandon Cooks, 18. Got no problem with that. Brandon Cooks has produced everywhere he's been, but no matter how good or bad his quarterback has been. Mike Williams at 19. He did have a breakout year last year. Fine with that at 19. And 20, DK Metcalf. He's a lot of people's trendy pick to be a Yike and not meet the wide receiver 2 expectations because of the quarterback situation in Seattle. But the DK Metcalf's talent and potential and big play ability is undeniable. He's still a fringe wide receiver 2 for me. I'm fine with him being ranked at 20, but also, being in the high 20s, mid 20s is probably better. Now, for the wide receiver 3 tier, I got a lot of guys who I like in this tier. It's been a real struggle trying to, when it gets to this part of the draft, trying to decide who to take, because this is where I'm loading up on wide receivers here in this part of the draft, because I'm liking a lot of these guys. I think a lot of these guys are going to jump out and put up wide receiver 2 numbers. Starting with Cortland Sutton at 21. The chemistry with Russell Wilson is getting really hyped up coming out of camp, but I want you to keep in mind that the chemistry between Matthew Stafford and Robert Woods in the preseason last year was getting all the hype, and it ended up being the Cooper Cup show, even before Robert Woods got hurt. So this could be the same situation where Cortland Sutton gets all the hype, but it ends up being the Jerry Jeudy show. They're both right there, 21-22. Could go either way. Cortland Sutton is my favorite between the two right now because just because of all the buzz that's coming out of preseason of the chemistry between Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton. We're not really hearing that buzz about Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy. I do think Jerry Jeudy is a much more talented wide receiver, but again, Jerry Jeudy's gonna be like Tyler Lockett, and Cortland Sutton's gonna be more like a Metcalf. And we saw what the Russell Wilson DK Metcalf connection did in Seattle. Russell Wilson throws the best deep ball in NFL, probably NFL history. So, and Cortland Sutton's a great deep threat. I'm loving that. I'm trying to get Cortland Sutton as much as possible. 23, the only guy I really have lower on this list than the experts. 23 is Darnell Mooney. I know he had a great year last year, but I think he's going to see a lot. He's going to be the focus of the secondary this year. I think he's still going to be. He's going to get a volume share good enough to keep him in that top 30 weekly play. I don't have him in the high 20s. He's not a top wide receiver 3 for me. I think he's trending down for me. It's not just because I'm a Bears hater. I don't think Darnell Mooney is talented enough to be the primary guy in an offense, especially with Chicago being a bad offense. I don't want any shares of Darnell Mooney this year. 24, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He reminds me so much of Stephon Diggs in the early days when he was in Minnesota. I haven't been drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown as much as I'd like to. I think he's going a little higher than the price I'm willing to pay because I think he's going wide receiver 2 price, and I've got him more as a wide receiver 3 because what we saw from him in the second half of last season is not going to be sustainable. And with the upgrades Detroit made in that secondary with rookie Jameson Williams, who we'll talk about later when he eventually gets on the field, and at signing DJ Chark, I think the intention there was to not have to rely on Amon-Ra St. Brown so much. And the touchdowns from Amon-Ra St. Brown most likely going to regress to the mean and be more normal. So even though I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown as a wide receiver 3, I'm not willing to draft him at the wide receiver 2 mark because there's just so many wide receivers in this spot. Marquise Brown at 25. I really like Marquise Brown this year. I think he's finally with the quarterback who's going to be able to get him the ball in Arizona. And then you've got that connection, that chemistry they had in college. We saw how that worked out between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in Cincinnati last year. So Marquise Brown could be in for a huge year. I've been getting I shouldn't say a lot, but I've been trying to get as many shares as possible in Marquise Brown. 26, we got Gabriel Davis of the Bills. He's everybody's breakout candidate. There's a lot of comparisons between Gabriel Davis this year and Chris Godwin. What was it, 3 years ago before he had his breakout? I can kind of see it. I see all the similarities. I'm buying I can't say I'm buying it. I'm not drafting. I drafted Gabriel Davis in one league, but again, with all the wide receivers right here in this range, Gabriel Davis has not been a priority for me. But I won't be surprised if he does fulfill the potential and does have a huge breakout and move his way up these rankings by the end of the year. 27, Chris Godwin. He's only this low on the list because he's injured, but there's a chance he could play week 1. And if he does play week 1, he's going to be a steal because we've already seen him be a wide receiver 1 before. So if you can get a wide receiver 1 at a wide receiver 3 price, that's a steal. Amari Cooper at 28. He's the only guy in this range that I don't really have anything to say. I think he's ranked pretty accurately. I think he's obviously going to be the primary guy in Cleveland, and then Jacoby Brissett is capable. He's good enough to get the ball to Amari Cooper without a problem. He's a low end wide receiver 3. Not a lot of potential left there. Amari Cooper has never lived up to the hype. He's never been finished higher than I think 22nd in fantasy points. So he's never been a wide receiver 2 He probably is never going to be a wide receiver 2, but he's definitely a very capable, very reliable, very safe wide receiver 3. 29, Allen Robinson. Again, I know that I hyped him up way too much last year, and it was a huge mistake. But I do like him in this Rams offense with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. And I do believe in Allen Robinson's talent still. So I think he's a very good wide receiver 3 target, especially at the back end of, he's going like 7th, 8th rounds. You can get him as your wide receiver 4 even. I mean, that's weekly bench, that's depth. That's a guy who you don't have to rely on. I'm loving Allen Robinson at that price. And then 30 is Juju. We saw what Juju is capable of when he first got to Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, and then kind of fell out of favor. Kansas City, he's definitely the most experienced and talented wide receiver in Kansas City right now. So he could instantly become Patrick Mahomes' favorite target, which instantly kind of vaults him into the wide receiver 2 tier, I think. So I'm not really drafting Juju. Again, there's just too many wide receivers in this spot, too many guys who I'm higher on than Juju, because I don't know. I don't dislike Juju, but I'm not in love with Juju, and since I'm not in love with Juju at this price, I'm just avoiding him. There's so many other guys I'd rather take on this list, including some guys a little bit ranked a little lower who I am super high on, and I'm just passing on Juju and waiting another round to get these guys. Who, number 33, Michael Thomas. I understand that he has burned us, massively burned us the last 2 years, but rank 33, you're getting him as your wide receiver 4. You're getting him as a bench piece. That's an incredible steal. Even if he doesn't play a single down this year or misses some time early on, we know when he gets on the field that he's going to instantly be, in my opinion, a no doubt wide receiver 2. So you're getting a wide receiver 2 at wide receiver 4 price, a guy you don't have to rely on a weekly basis unless you have some misfortune with injuries. So, I mean, I know Michael Thomas definitely burned me, but I'm still at this price, at this value, at this place in the draft, 8th, 9th round, snatching him up if he's there. 35, Adam Thielen. I'm an unabashedly biased Vikings fan. I love Adam Thielen, always have. I root for him all the time. If he goes to another team, even if he goes to the Green Bay Packers, I will still root for him because he's an inspiration, really. He's a very inspirational guy. He's a very good guy. He does a lot of good things for the community, for just everything. Adam Thielen is my favorite player, but fact remains he's still a very productive wide receiver. He still gets a lot of touch. He's Kirk Cousins' guy on the goal line. So even though he's getting older and his touches may drop, he's still going to be the guy that Kirk Cousins looks for when he needs a touchdown. And touchdowns are kind of the holy grail of fantasy football. So Adam Thielen being ranked at 35 is a little low for me. I definitely got him in my top 30. At 40, let's talk about Brandon Ayuk. The hype is still there. It's been 3 years in a row now where we're getting this Brandon Ayuk hype. He hasn't really lived up to it. Will he live up to it this year? I don't know. I'm not a Trey Lance believer, so I'm not convinced that the 49ers passing game is going to get better with Trey Lance than it was with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I still think Debo and Kittle are the guys in that offense. So Ayuk is a very risky guy. That's why he's ranked at 40. But I do believe he's very talented. And if he ever figures it out, because we've seen him produce at a high rate several times, it just hasn't been consistent. Brandon Ayuk is a guy who could definitely win you some weeks, or definitely win you some weeks when you have some bye week blues around the middle of the season. Like for me, I've noticing week 7's been a problem. Week 9's always a problem. Week 14, I'm drafting a lot of week 14 players because that's like the last week of the regular season. So I'll just treat it as like a bye week for my team, because by then I'm gonna know my fate. I'm gonna be locked up in the playoffs. I'm gonna be out of the playoffs. My teams aren't really ever middle of the pack. I'm never one of those guys who's just kind of squeaking in the playoffs in week 14. So I'm not super concerned about a week 14 bye. So I'm drafting heavy week 14. But if you got, even though Brandon Ayuk does have a week 9 bye as well, so it's not really gonna help you there. But if you're heavy on bye weeks in 7, week 10, week 11 is another. Week 11 is another big one this year. Brandon Ayuk could win you your week because he's very capable of big performances. 42, DeAndre Hopkins. Oh man, I was so low on DeAndre Hopkins last year, but at 42, DeAndre Hopkins is a freaking steal. I am getting DeAndre Hopkins in as many leagues as I can. He is going to come back when he after his 6-game suspension. He's gonna come back pissed off, and he's gonna go nuclear. And I can't wait to see what DeAndre Hopkins does when he comes back. DeAndre Hopkins is my. I don't even know what. I don't really know what to call it. But DeAndre Hopkins is the one player that I am gobbling up in every draft at this value. Because he's a wide receiver 1 going as a wide receiver 5, and that is an incredible gap in value versus production. And I don't really care so much about the first 6 weeks of the season anyway. I care much more about the last 6 weeks of the season. So I'd rather have DeAndre Hopkins for 10 weeks or 11 weeks than a lot of these other guys for a full season. So yeah, I'm loving DeAndre Hopkins, especially since I'm a guy who doesn't really prioritize wide receiver in the draft, especially because it's so deep. Like I was saying, like with these wide receiver 3s, I love so many of these guys. I'm drafting a lot of these guys as my wide receiver 2, and I'm drafting DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Adam Thielen as my wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. I feel like even though I'm not getting the elite guys at the top, I feel like I'm coming out of every draft stacked at wide receiver because it's just so good. It's so deep. And there's just so many guys who I think are going to break out this year. Lastly, we got a guy who's not even ranked in the top 50. Kenny Golladay of the Giants. I think he's one of the best post-hype sleepers out there. I think this is going to be the year where he's healthy and he's productive, and he's going to be a great value for you at the end of the draft. He's even going undrafted in a lot of drafts. So he's a guy you can get on the waiver wire when injuries hit, as they inevitably will. But you might want to get him early because I think he's not going to be there for long because he's going to come out of the gate producing. Now, for the rookies, we're going to talk about the rookies real quick because there's a lot of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm talking about the notable ones. Starting with Drake London. Not a Drake London fan at all. I don't think he's very good. The Falcons' offense is going to be bad. He's going to get force-fed targets, but how productive he's going to be with them, I don't know. Not a believer. I think he needs to move to tight end. I think tight end is his natural position, but I wouldn't fault you if you are a Drake London believer. Garrett Wilson of the Jets. I got to see how this offense kind of works out. I have drafted Garrett Wilson, I think, in one league, but he's been like my wide receiver 5, so he's not someone I'm going to ever expect to be relying on. But I'm hoping that I do believe that he's talented enough, and eventually he's going to be a very fantasy relevant guy. But how soon? Who knows? Chris Olave, like him in that Saints offense, but if Michael Thomas is healthy, I'm not sure how reliable he's going to be. Treylon Burks, a lot of people are thinking he's going to fill that A.J. Brown role. He's very comparable to A.J. Brown, but the fact of the matter is Treylon Burks is not NFL ready at this point. He doesn't really know how to run routes, which is kind of a big deal when you're a wide receiver. So Treylon Burks is going to be a slow starter. He may be a guy who is very valuable to you later in the season. I have been drafting Treylon Burks a couple of places, but I think he's getting a little bit more hype than he's worth. So I'm not targeting him, but if he's there, like in the double-digit rounds, and I need some wide receiver depth, I'll definitely grab him for later in the season. But I think other people I'm drafting with are prioritizing Treylon Burks a little bit more than me. Jameson Williams of the Lions, he's the guy I'm really high on. I think I know he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season. I don't think he's going to be back till after the Lions bye week in week 6. So like with DeAndre Hopkins, you're not going to get him for the first third of the season, but he's a guy who over the last 11 weeks of the season could be a league winner for you. And also if you draft him you can immediately move him to your IR, which gives you basically an extra roster spot to add someone off the waiver wire who you didn't get to draft. So, I mean, there's some strategic advantage there. I've been drafting Jameson Williams quite a bit. I just drafted him today. Sky Moore of the Chiefs getting a lot of hype because he could eventually be the Tyreek Hill replacement in Kansas City, but I don't think that's going to happen immediately. And I do think that, at least for this year, Juju's probably going to be the guy in Kansas City. He's the guy I'd be more willing to draft. But at the value that you're getting Sky Moore, which is at the very end of the draft or off the waiver wire, he's definitely worth taking a chance on. And now for the couple of Packers, Christian Watson. I know Christian Watson was drafted really high, but I don't think Christian Watson is going to be. I don't see it for Christian Watson. He has all the natural ability, but he's going to need some time to adjust because he has a fumbling problem, and Aaron Rodgers is not going to tolerate a fumbling wide receiver. In fact, he's already on the record as saying that he's been frustrated by the drops by his wide receivers this season, and the season hasn't even started yet. Christian Watson is going to have a much bigger adjustment period, and I don't think he's going to be a reliable option at all this year. But Romeo Doubs, the guy they got much later in the draft, in like the 5th round, I loved him coming out of college, and I was pissed that he went to Green Bay, and he's going to be teamed up with Aaron Rodgers. He's getting a lot of hype coming out of camp. A lot of people are drafting him at the end of the draft because Romeo Doubs could, as a 5th round pick, as a 5th round rookie, be the guy in Green Bay this year. So Romeo Doubs is someone to keep an eye on or draft. I do like Romeo Doubs a lot. I'm not drafting him. I think there's much more higher upside guys available at the end of the draft, like Jameson Williams or Treylon Burks, Kenny Golladay, a guy that I'm more intrigued by this year than Romeo Doubs. But I wouldn't fault you at all if you buy the hype on Romeo Doubs because it's probably real. I think Romeo Doubs is talented. I think he's not the most talented wide receiver in Green Bay. That would be Christian Watson. But Green Bay does not really have an established wide receiver one. Romeo Doubs could be the de facto guy for this year. It's going to be interesting to see how Aaron Rodgers adjusts to not having Devontae Adams. I think he's going to be just fine because he's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to make somebody else look really good. Could be Allen Lazard, could be Romeo Doubs, could be everybody. Who knows? It's that's the problem I have with Green Bay receivers this year is we don't really know who it's going to be, and I'm not willing to invest a pick in any of them when I think that if I give it a couple weeks, we'll see who pops, and I'll pick them up on waivers if I need them. But again, I feel like I've been pretty stacked at wide receiver in every single league, so I'm probably not going to need them. Knock on wood here, unless people get hurt. And yeah, there's other rookie wide receivers that I could talk about, but it's already been almost half an hour. This video is probably going to take 5 days to upload, so I'm just going to end it. I'll get to the running backs. Probably not today, but sometime before Friday. And thanks so much for watching, following, subscribing, whatever. I don't really get a lot of interaction. There's not a lot of comments on my stuff, but it's all good. It's definitely getting hot in here. I'm also wearing 2 layers of shirts because I didn't want to wear my undershirt in this video because my undershirt is not super, not real attractive. This shirt's a much nicer shirt, but it's also warmer. So I maybe just taken the undershirt off and worn this, or whatever. Live and learn. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? So peace, love, and nacho fries. Hopefully this video was valuable enough to you before your draft. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to make these videos, even if nobody watches them. So, all right, peace out.